So I think we just start with, what inspired you to start Concierge, like way back, when you first, maybe even prior to, becoming a PT or graduating or any of that, where did it really start? What really inspired you?
Yeah, I always wanted to start my own business. Mm-hmm. And I think, you knew that because I told you like from day one that was a goal of mine.
Yeah, that's why I married you.
And in fact, the 10 clinics was actually a goal of mine too, even from inception. And
oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And so, what inspired me to do that? I guess there was some innate drive, and so then my career took. I wanted to find really the best opportunity right out of school to learn from a model that I felt like I could then take and replicate. And so I took a job at Mass Sport and Spine, and I was fortunate enough to have a couple great mentors there. Mm-hmm. And the owners of the business, Tom and Eileen, were great, and Trish and Dave were my two mentors right out of school. And my goal out of school is just to become the best clinician that I could possibly be.
But you always had that, yes. But I think you always had in the back of your mind that your goal, and not long-term goal, like you were always very much like, shocker to everybody who knows you, but I want it and I want it now.
Yeah, but with things like experience, even I could, I can admit that, and it's funny the journey that you go on as a physical therapist too, there's sort of that, I don't know what the name of this law is, but like at 3 years of experience, there's like this peak of like, you think you know everything and you've seen everything. And then there's a trough that you fall into, like you see one or two cases and you're like, oh my God, I like literally don't know anything. And I have to dive right back in and really look at and rethink and re-engage with, where I'm going in my career and how I look at different things and different diagnoses. And so I had a really great start at Mass Sport and Spine with Tom and Eileen and with mentorship. And, we were just talking about this, but like I was able to surround myself with people who are much smarter and who had already built a successful business, right? So I saw a model that worked. And of course there were things, minor tweaks and different things that I've taken to Concierge and to build our own way. But I very much had a great model set for me there. And I had great clinical mentorship. So without those two things, I wouldn't be where I am today. Mm-hmm. What inspired me to open up my own clinic, our own clinic.
It's okay, it was yours first.
It's a loaded question. I think it really just drives back to drive. And, a lot of people say, like, I feel like I can do it better than anybody else, or I feel like I can do it different. Yeah. And I do think that we do a lot of things different. I think that our core values, what we actually value as a company. And, it's funny, I just came out of an interview and I talked mostly about our core values. Like, who do we look for in a physical therapist or a teammate? And, we've spent how many hours at all of these meetings. We meet every Monday, at all of our quarterly meetings with our leadership team. And we've really cultivated 4 traits of people that we look for. And that's taken a long time to really kind of weed it down and kind of nestle through like who we want an ideal team member to be.
Yeah. And
that's inspiring. The fact that we now know who we want on the team.
For sure.
You don't think about that when you don't have a team, right? Because when it's just you, and when I just started Concierge, it was literally just me and Auntie Lou.
I know.
And so, we talked a little bit earlier about the evolution of becoming from just a really good PT.
Yeah, let's talk about the journey some more, because some of the things that you said, I think, we're definitely going to touch on, and that kind of learning some of the things you just mentioned about like the core values and like building a team, like that's part of the journey. That was part of our journey. We didn't do that initially. That's not what we or what you kind of envisioned, because in the beginning of that journey, it was really for you like that grind.
Yeah, I'm drowning and I need help.
Yeah. And for me, I was on my own journey in my own career, but also learning what's my part in a business that my husband's starting. How do I support you when I'm already on my own career journey? What does that look like? And I think early on, there's some things that we learned that were really instrumental. And if we didn't go through some of those things and make the mistakes and experience the hard failures, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't have found what we value within CPT, our core values and all those things. So let's start back at the journey. So
yeah,
you had, a great experience in your first job. I convinced you to take some more opportunity outside into my world and save some more money. And I think that's one thing that we always knew we were always on the same page with. If you were really going to start your business and I was really invested in this too. What are you laughing about
No, just so for the record, Brooke takes full credit for me starting Concierge because she said that she told me to get the jobs at the nursing homes. So that's just for the record, Brooke's fully says that she's the one who's actually started Concierge.
That's not true.
So again, and so just to that point, right? And so, part of starting a business is creating and developing, and saving capital so that you can build something special. And so Brooke and I, we each worked 60 to 70 hour weeks.
Yeah.
We joke about it. We have two little girls now. They're 5 and 3, and we joke about not having any time now. What were we doing with our time before kids? We were working.
I'm pretty sure we were relaxing though. I remember I think.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, we liked going out.
We liked going out. I mean, we always liked to just go out to eat, and that was kind of our thing, and travel and
just go out to eat. We were fun.
Okay, we were fun once. So yeah, I mean, well, maybe that was my thing. I just as you can tell, I like to eat. But so yeah, the first part of the journey really was getting the skills, becoming the best that I could be. And there was a little bit of farcity in that too, and I might have just made up that word, but getting board certified I thought was the end of my journey, in orthopedics. Okay, now I'm board certified, I know it all, right? There's nothing that's going to come through that door that I'm not going to be able and ready to treat and to get better. And wow, that couldn't have been further from the truth. It was really just the beginning of my journey as really an orthopedic specialized PT.
But I feel like it did give you it gave you confidence. And what I'm trying to say, it wasn't false confidence because you did advance your skills. I mean, I can attest to that as a clinician too. As you invest in your skills, that's the beginning of it. That's really the beginning of the journey, right? You had a goal in mind always. Even as I know when we talk to your aunt, we talk to your mom, and it really was something that was really part of you, even as a young kid, having that drive, but then also advancing your clinical skills and gaining that confidence was start of your journey. And then moving, we moved out to Grafton in 2018, and that's when we opened up. I remember this it was yesterday. We were both so nervous. You maybe more so than me, but I think because I trusted you, but so nervous to just rent the space that we rented from Perry's. And I remember I said to you, Sean, it's going to be okay. If we can't afford this rent, we'll just work the 3 jobs we're already working, because we didn't have our kids at the time. And we're no big deal. We'll just pay the rent until the lease runs out.
Right. But so, the way that I look at it was, and I think, Brooke and I are both, we're both Catholic, and, we have a belief in God and we have a faith. And, I think that was sort of one of those things that, we're talking about Perry and Sutton, and, we opened up next to a CrossFit, and, 2,000, the perfect square footage, 2,300 square feet. And Perry and I, did a good deal together where it benefited both sides. And, it kind of just fell into place, and it was the timing was serendipitous, and we had looked at a couple other spaces. We actually looked in Northborough, where we are now. We looked at that same space, the Hotworks space, 6 years ago for the first Concierge. So that kind of came full circle. But it ended up working out, and of course, everything was hedged at that point because we were open 2 days a week to start or 3 days a week to start.
Yeah,
and
because you were still
I was
working
home
care,
care, you know, and, shout out to Dave for, that's what he did too, Dave Curran, to start his business. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just to keep the cash flow afloat. Yeah. And, built it up to the point where then I was able to, sustain, a caseload for another PT. And, we hired Brett on Gina and, sort of fast forward.
And it was really like the Sean and Gina show. It
was the Sean and Gina show for 6 months. And, then we brought on some more PTs and we grew. And along with that, I started to develop a different skill set.
Yeah. So let's talk about that more. That was really early on in the business, and we talk about what success looks like a lot. And throughout that journey, I think what success has looked like has changed, and it's changed based off of what you've experienced, what I experienced alongside of you, what we've learned, and honestly, the failures that we've experienced and reflected on and became better. Because we learned and we were aware of those and we wanted to be better. So, what do you think, in that first 1 to 3 years that we really had CPT, what do you feel like really held us back? Because those first 1 to 3 years, while the business was growing, there was a lot of stress. There was a lot of tears, a lot of fighting between us, a lot of tumult, within the team too. And not that anybody wanted that. So what do you feel like, why do you feel like that really was? What did we really learn from that?
I mean, such a loaded question.
I know.
I can think of 3 or 4 things right off the top of my head.
Okay.
But to reverse engineer where we are today, think about all the systems that we have in place for literally everything
that we didn't have.
And so for the audience, a system is just as simple as what does the front desk associate or a team lead or an aide say when they pick up the phone, right? What does is the first interaction with a physical therapist scripted or not, right? Do our customers actually know? And this is actually something we're currently working on as a team. Do they know what we're all about? Do they know how we're different? Mm-hmm. Do they know why we're thrilled that they chose Concierge over a competitor of ours? So that's something. The systems and processes that we have in place now, I didn't even know about systems and processes because I don't have a business degree. Mm-hmm. I just went to PT school and I was trained to be a technician, a physical therapist. And I was always curious about finance and business and growing and entrepreneurship. So I was, actively engaged in reading as many books as I possibly could to get ahead. But there's a big difference between reading a book and applying it in real life.
Right.
So a couple things. What was the question again?
So when we're looking at success, in those 1 to 3 years, obviously your initial thought of what success looked like may have been different from what it is now. And because we've gone through some failures in that journey where we had to shift success, or we had to not shift success, but really shift our mindset and really learn as to how to get better and what truthfully is important in growing and establishing our business.
Yeah. So, I think there's a couple questions in there, but really definition of success for me is always evolving. I feel like success, to your point, means different things to different people. Mm-hmm. And, another thing too is if you're relying on somebody else's vision or version of success for your life, you're never going to be successful.
Right.
And so my version and my vision of success, at least today, is to just be, joyful in the present moment, right? And enjoy the present moment, and to build, to follow my vision, which our entire company knows about, which is 10 clinics in 10 years. That's today. 1 to 3 years is just keeping the doors open, right. And being grateful, in retrospect, it was so painful. We went through a lot of staffing changes. We went through a pandemic. We didn't know, and back to the core values, we didn't know what we were looking for in a new hire. Yeah. Essentially, and I'll say this now, but we were desperate for help. We just needed physical therapy help.
Yeah.
And we hired some people that just didn't understand our mission. They didn't align with our core values. And quite frankly, to take ownership, I didn't have the time to train and to coach and to mentor our new talent. I expected that they come into the role of physical therapist and just be able to do the job of physical therapist. And that was an eye-opener and a very humbling experience for me. A big shift for the company was, it's always a battle when you're young in business, right? Because we were open in Sutton in 2018. We opened up Shrewsbury in 2021. And I really pushed to open up Shrewsbury because I wanted to continue to move and to grow the vision and to grow clinics. And
we had our first child in between that.
Yeah, it's just there's so much stress in there. And, when you're only one clinic with, I think we had 5 or 6 PTs at the time, as an owner, you have to treat. Like you can't, there is no profit margin. And I call it margin for error, right? Because that's really what it is, especially when you're a young company. There is no profit margin. You are the profit margin when you're an owner and you're less than 5 PTs. So I had to treat, and in treating, I then couldn't use that time to mentor my staff or to invest in business, growing the business, being at all the events that I needed to be around, the community events, the community service events, the Chamber of Commerce events, everything you do to build a business. There's only so many hours in a day, and there's only, we had to prioritize family too, because that's important. And again, I mean, you were so strong through the whole thing and are so strong, but it put a big strain on our family for me to be working 80 hours a week in the business and on the business, because even if I wasn't there treating, I was always carrying, and we still kind of are, but it's just different now. I was always carrying that at home, and it's very difficult. It's not an easy, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. I think it's the highest calling, in terms of challenge in any career is it's so humbling every single day, because there's so much that I know I don't know, and I love learning something that I don't know.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit to like the failures, because I think that is the main reason why you don't write the greater your failure, one would say, the greater your success, or you were only as successful as you are from coming out of your failures, right? You either succumb to your failures and you retract and you don't move forward, or you reflect on your failures, you learn, and you get better. I think that what do you, and maybe I can share, we might have different, because I don't think we've ever really talked about this one thing, but what do you feel like was the biggest failure that we experienced in those first couple of years?
I mean, specifically or generally?
I mean, I guess go generally, and I'll ask you. I'll tell you if we need to be more specific.
I think generally it was a failure to really focus on our people and support them and their needs. And I think also finding the right people. Yeah. I think we had some of the wrong people on the bus, and just training. Like we just didn't have any sort of training or leadership programming, and I didn't have the skill set. We didn't have a coach at that time. Like I didn't have any sort of mentors. I had mentors, but it's the people failures that still haunt me to this day. And I joke, they don't haunt me actually. I really think that I learned a tremendous amount. And it was so honestly, very humbling.
Well, they did haunt you for a while.
Yeah, but it's,
but
because you're always thinking, what could I have done differently, or what could I have done better to have supported that person. Right. And I think obviously sometimes emotions get into play and, come into play, and, there's anger and there's fear of oh my gosh, if this person, you're a small company, if somebody leaves, this is a significant portion of your top line income. Right. And, so you appease and you do all the wrong things. Right. Yeah. And, just a humbling journey, but I would just say it's all about supporting our people. And, now with our coaching, we have this thing called the 3-legged stool that we talk about. And, we talk about our people being happy, right? Our staff being happy, our patients being happy, and having a stable business, right? One that runs at a solid margin. And all three of those things, looking back, needed to be in play, but we just didn't have the full 30,000 foot view of like how things needed to run. And now we've got a better idea of that, but we're still, you know, some things that we've changed to change that, you know, to improve our culture and to improve our product is just by investing a ton in our people.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got, you know, we have leadership training, you know, systematized now. We've got quarterly seminars that we do. Like we've got, you know, labs that we do.
But I think we've also got into those things, to those systems, to those processes, because one of our biggest failures, and we still talk about it to this day, literally, I feel like this is the number one thing we say. Learning to set clear expectations all around of yourself, of your team, of, you know, realistic goals, all of that. And, you know, we lived so much in those beginning years, like you said, like almost kind of like through fear. Like there's a lot of fear, you know, you are small, like you lose a person, you know, that's really hard. And it's always like that, right? It's hard. We talk about this all the time, that fear is like the number one motivator, right? Is it fear? Pain?
Yeah, fear is one of them.
Fear, pain is like one of the number one motivators. So you kind of are in this like fight or flight response when you have that like fear mentality in those first couple of years. And once we got out of that and realized like, okay, that's an emotion. We're reacting on that emotion. Like, what are the expectations? What are the clear expectations that we need to set? And once we started realizing that, that's when the processes came. That's when the programs came. That's when the strategy came. And when we realized that business is everything, it's patient experience, it's team experience, and it's finance, it's business stability, but not just saying those words. Right? It's again setting the expectations around what those words mean and what are the action items. Like I feel like once we got there, and we had to go through those failures, we had to learn like, whoa, nope, this doesn't work. Leading through fear doesn't work. Like leading through emotion doesn't work. You know, all of these things, trying to appease, like you said, trying to, you know, just say yes all the time, or not say yes, but then not be able to actually stand on that, because we know at the end of the day that wasn't something we could meet. You know, whether that's a patient request or a team request.
And that's something I think we've done a lot better of a job at, is following through on our promises and our commitments. You know, and it's so tough to make a promise in today's age because there are so many moving variables. You know, and I think it's also, you know, what I tell people is like, you know, a lot of folks come in, they want to be clinic directors, they want to be leaders in our company, and you know, there are no promises for that. You know, you've got to come in and you've got to show us that you're curious, right, and that you want to learn and grow, and that you're committed.
What does it look like for you?
Yeah, and what it looks like for me is just, you know, aligning with our cultural core values, right? So like, you know, being a team player, bringing a positive attitude to work every day, going above and beyond from a customer service perspective to take care of your people, right? And that's not just like squeezing somebody in, like it's literally caring about them as a person. You know, I did an interview this morning with a doctor of PT, and you know, he said that, and this is unprompted, he said, you know, he looks at people as a whole person, as a whole body, and he said he had a patient come in, and she was doing a speech at a wedding or something like this.
Yeah, he told me this story.
And during his physical therapy treatments, because, you know, it's kind of rote, like you do, you know, your manual, do your exercise, whatever else. He practiced and gave her tips on public speaking during the interaction. And to me, that immediately spoke volumes. And I said, this person is somebody who I want on our team.
He was making connections.
He was making a connection beyond just, hey, your range of motion is 120 degrees, great. Like, that's great, and that's important to our profession, but really what's important is caring about people as people. Yeah. And that comes full circle. And that's what I feel like we do well here. And we talk about transitions in the company and how we've grown over the years. You coming on board has really helped bolster and solidify, you know, not only our culture, but, you know, the way that our personalities are. You know, people love you, and I'm, our personalities are very different. And I think,
No.
But again, I mean, it takes two different people to drive something forward. And whereas I may be focused on different things, maybe I'm focused on, the patients and the business stability, you're focused on our people.
Yeah.
Or if you're focused on the business stability, I'm focused on our people and the patients, and making phone calls. And one of my favorite things to do is just call new patients and ask them how their experience was. Well,
I think you made a good point, and something that I think, I don't know, I feel like we do actually know a good amount of like business owners, and we know a lot of great ones that are very kind, and you can just tell like they're a caring person. I hope people say that about us. I really genuinely do, and I hope they always do. But then you meet those and you're like, I don't actually think like they are. Like, I don't think that they care, or I don't think that they're kind. And what's not necessarily unique about our field, but the rehab field or the medical field itself, like, we are in the field of helping people. We literally all should have gone into this field because we genuinely care about making people better. So where I'm going with that is, that's a good point, because that's so important when, yes, we're treating patients, but that's equally important when we're treating each other. And what I mean by that is like interacting with each other on our team, interacting with our CPT family. Like, if you don't genuinely care about your people, why would you think your people would genuinely care about your business?
Yeah.
Why?
And that's the secret sauce.
But see, I think that's hard because I don't think everybody has that.
Yeah.
But there are.
But you have to genuinely care. You have to truly actually care about your people. And again, it's so tough, and I think this will be a challenge as we continue to grow the business, and we don't have personal interaction with everybody.
Right.
Now we have personal interaction with literally everybody who works, at Concierge, and
we know their families,
know their family, and it's like, it's easy. We truly are a family business. Like, I feel as though that's going to be a challenge as we continue to grow. And how do we continue to engage and maintain the culture that we've built and worked so hard for?
I agree. I think that's why, and we talked about what success looked like in those first 1 to 3 years, and we've now been CPT for 6 years. So now we're past that 5-year mark, and what success really looks like moving forward is, how do we continue to stay true to our values and who we are, and continue to make sure that people know that we do genuinely care as we grow and get bigger, which is super exciting. But I think that's what success looks like in the future, to maintain what we have right now and replicate that at a larger scale. I mean, that's special. I feel like that's really unique. Like, I really, and I know I don't have as much interaction as you do with other PT business owners, but from the little ones that we do, and maybe I'm biased, I really truthfully feel like we are advanced in that. We are advanced in our thought, and maybe that has to do with our faith. Maybe that has to do with our upbringing and the people that we choose to surround ourselves with, and what we personally value, like with our family, with our children, like what we personally value. And I think that I don't see that in everyone, which is surprising to me. And, I'm sure you can get successful, or there are, dirty business owners out there, right, that get successful doing it the wrong way. And that's unfortunate. And that's going to come back to bite them in the butt at some point. But, I think that's really what our success trajectory looks like. And of course, there's so much more in that, right? Like, we have the team experience, and I'm talking about the caring, and we have the patient experience, and then we have the business stability. We have to constantly focus on the success in the future is that 3-legged stool. You can't lose sight of any of it. But wouldn't it be so cool to replicate the feeling that we have right now? And we have an employee in the room with us right now. Like, we hope that, what we're saying, she's leaving, what we're saying, she feels. And as we, continue to grow, people still feel that. I think that's cool. And I got to have that experience with the company I previously worked for, and then, also working, within that a small business that kind of turned into a big business, and that was super cool. And you still had that feeling a lot.
Yeah.
And that's special.
Yeah,
that's something special.
You felt seen.
I felt seen. I felt like I was part of the big picture. And that was super cool. That's a really neat thing to kind of like experience. And I think that's also like in my personality. I just am that type of person. Like I like to focus on that, but I really do truthfully believe in it. I don't think I was the only one that felt that. Or I know I wasn't the only one that felt that. But
well, I think part of that is just, when you have an idea or an opinion, it's taken seriously.
Yeah.
It's not dropped in a Dropbox and then thrown out at the end of the week. Like, we're always looking for ways to improve and just get and I say this all the time to our staff, especially our young staff who want to become leaders or who want to become better PTs or improve their manual skills or whatever it is, 1% better every day. Like, did you read 10 pages in a book last night or yesterday? Did you read the latest JOS PT article if you want to be a better orthopedic PT? Did you sign up for a continuing ed course if you're serious about becoming better with your skills? And for us as business owners, what's our cadence with a coach, right? Like, do we have the best coaching? Do we have the best training systems, right, for us and for our staff to get to the next level?
We're constantly trying to better ourselves. You can't become complacent, right? What does my mom always say? Like, once you're complacent, it's time to move on.
Yeah, and it's so easy to, when you hit a certain level of success, it's easy to, become complacent.
Sure.
I think once you get through those first few years of business, they say something like 97% of businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Oh, really?
And so
within
really
the first
just
5 years. Okay, good. We're 1 year. We're 1 year beyond that.
And it might even go up after 10 years. But I think,
okay. 4 more years to go.
We're still in business, so that's a good sign. But it's a testament too to we don't live this crazy lifestyle. Like, we're taking everything that we earn here and putting it back into the company to grow and to create opportunities for our teams.
Yeah.
And we very much live the mission that we're on, which is 10 clinics today, is 10 clinics in 10 years.
Yeah.
Let's
talk about that more. So I feel like that's something that's unique. Like, we are in growth mode, and we've been in growth mode for 6 years. And with our vision being, the 10 clinics in 10 years, we're going to continue to be in growth mode. So what do you feel like is, the number one thing, and maybe it's hard to label it just one thing, but the number one thing to focus on? How do we grow? How do we continue to grow? What do we need to continue to focus on? Like, how do we get there? How do we open up Southborough maybe in the next, couple of months? Like, how do we open up the next couple of clinics?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a very easy question, but it's also a very hard question, right? So it's all about people. It's all about identifying the next level leaders. People. It's what are our systems and training those folks so that they have the tools and the understanding to not only be a good PT, but to then train a team and to be there for their teams. And then how much time does it take to actually be there with their teams and to support them? That's something that I definitely felt but I was also pulled in a million different directions. So it's tough to compare my journey to a clinic director's journey.
Yeah, because journey is different.
Because each journey is different. But, I think when you're in growth mode, you want to do it in a fashion where, especially right now, you're not going too fast. Because when you go too fast, there's not enough cash flow to support the growth, right? And so that's where a lot of businesses fail, is they fall short in cash projections for a couple months straight, and then they go under, right? Because they can't sustain, or they lose a couple teammates, right? So again, it goes back to the people. But fortunately, we're in a great position, and we've invested so much in our staff, and they in turn invest in Concierge, with their time and their effort. And so to answer your question, we've got 4 clinics now, and I'd love to open up 2 next year. It's 2024 now, so I'd love to open up 2 next year. But it's just all about the people. That's in training on our leadership systems, and that's what's going to get us to 10 clinics in 10 years.
Yeah, and I think talking about that, getting there, when we talk about the barriers to getting there, I kind of go back to what's the one question we would love to have answered, to know the answer to,
Yeah. What's insurance reimbursement going to look like in 5 years?
I actually wasn't thinking that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of things about our business model that can be very difficult, and why it's so difficult to start today a PT practice. God bless you, because there are so many mistakes, from like all the way from the start that we made, but specifically, we're fighting this uphill battle with the insurance companies and value in terms of how they determine value and how we determine value,
which is crazy.
And it's we're not aligned with the insurance carriers, and
we meaning like the rehab field.
The rehab field, and again, we're part of New England Physical Therapy Network, and we've created this coalition to really strategically look at what it costs for us to offer a visit and what we're getting reimbursed by these insurance companies. And part of our mission is to offer the latest technology in our field. Right now downstairs we have Shockwave machine, which was a significant investment. We have 4 of them now. It's a significant investment for the practice. We have an AlterG anti-gravity treadmill. We've got we're testing a class 4 laser right now downstairs, and those technologies are not cheap. They're very expensive, and I would love for insurance to cover them, but they don't. And part of that is there's a myriad of reasons, but the bottom line is we've got to be what it costs us to offer an appointment. We've got to be at 20% or more of that for the insurance companies. Yeah. And for many of them, we're not. And so I want to be able to offer really an elegant experience and a top-notch product to our clients and to our patients. And I want to pay our staff at what they deserve to be paid with doctorate degrees in physical therapy.
Yeah, it's just not commensurate. And I think we talk a lot about the fact, I know we talked about this like way early on in our careers when we were working together. So fun fact for everybody listening, Sean and I worked together in nursing homes. Yep. That was an interesting experience. But we truthfully feel like in the rehab field, and I think pretty much every PT and PTA can attest to this, and speech therapists and occupational therapists, like we really work with patients to actually get them better. Like we rehab them. We get them back to their function. We don't just, give a pill. We don't just say, oh, your pain is gone, or, oh, you're meeting this test. No, it's about function. And to have an insurance reimbursement that's commensurate to that. And when we're talking about that being really like the number one thing that's, really deferring the success, or not deferring the success, but limiting the success, it's because we're doing all these great things and it just is not being reimbursed at a level that's commensurate. Like I think it was one of our clinic directors said she's going to go to her doctor this past Friday and she's going to be in there for 3 minutes and the doctor's going to get, reimbursed hundreds of dollars or whatever that might be. And of course they're a doctor, they have a medical degree. So not that we're there, but we do more than what we're getting reimbursed for now. So like, I guess the number one question to be answered is not necessarily like, what is insurance reimbursement going to look like in 10 years, but what can we do? How can we change it?
Yeah, we just say no to the contracts.
And we advocate, but we have to just continue to do it.
But here's the biggest thing is, my vision and my mind are the only thing that I'm truly concerned about is our patient experience and our outcomes.
And our team experience.
And of course our team experience, right? Because and the business stability follows that, right? But in terms of the insurance companies and the value of the care, our team is going to provide a quality product, right? And the patients are going to receive a quality product. So at the end of the day, if people are getting better, the product speaks for itself. There's value there, right?
Right.
If we're preventing surgeries, if we're preventing,
use of drugs,
and we're preventing, comorbidities, things like this, like it saves the healthcare system a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's just going to take years and years because everything research lags in terms of time. So it's going to take years for the insurance companies to see that, and then they're going to overspend for years, and then realize, oh man, we had PT all along. We could have just used them for $1,500, for 15 visits instead of going to, go get a total knee replacement for 50 grand. Hey, we put this off for 5 years because they saw a great PT clinic with excellent outcomes. And, we actually got a phone call from an insurance company, a large insurance company, recently actually. And they called and they spoke with, one of our front desk associates, and they said, hey, listen, we've seen your outcomes.
I know, that's pretty cool.
Our patient, our subscriber was going somewhere else. We've seen your outcomes and how tremendous of an experience, like what you guys offer. We want our subscriber to go to you guys.
Right.
So it's just tremendous, and that's where we want to go. I truly believe that if you care about your people and you care about the patient experience, not only does the business stability follow, but eventually the insurance companies will catch up, I hope. And if they don't, then we'll have to look at different avenues.
Right.
But people, we always talk like, I had about a back pain the other day, for a couple days, and, I would do anything to get out of that original pain. Yeah. Whether it's shockwave or go to, PT or, it would do whatever it took, right? And I would also do whatever it took to prevent it from happening again. If I knew and I was told and I was educated, if you just do this every day, it's not going to come back, or you have a high likelihood of keeping it, staved off. So that's what we offer here. We really offer solutions, to get people back to doing what they love to do.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you want to ask me?
No. I'm the one being interviewed here.
Not true.
What do you think was the biggest shift? What do you think was the hardest change for you coming on board to Concierge?
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like a vague response, but figuring out where I fit in, what I was good at. I came off my other job, my other career, which I loved, really being in operations, and there was a lot of other components to that. There was a business development component to that. There was, obviously I was in leadership, and I think it was unique coming from a model where basically of this in a much bigger scale in just a different setting. And coming here, I was really struggling, like, almost like, what am I good at? Which is kind of strange when you think about it, because I was already doing something, and I think I felt maybe not as successful, but what am I good at, and how does that fit in to CPT? Like, where do I fit in without stepping on somebody's toes or coming in and feeling like, okay, now it's the Brooke show, or why is Brooke here now? That was hard. That was really hard for me. I think that took like almost a year for me to really figure out, like,
and just to develop the relationships too, because people knew who you were, but they didn't really know who you were.
Yeah, and I think that was really difficult too, because I pride myself in like my ability to build relationships, to make connections with people. But I was coming in, people knew me, and maybe they had like a preconceived notion of me, but I wasn't really able to, as myself. It took me a while to figure out, how do I build relationships with everybody as just Brooke, not Brooke, Sean's wife, because I think that's what happened a lot. It was Brooke, Sean's wife is coming in. Brooke, Sean's wife was coming in. And, this, like, I really, to me, like, I needed myself, my individual self, to be successful and to feel proud of not just you, but of me, outside of you. And how can I add value? That was huge too. Sean built this. Sean, treated millions of patients and started CPT and really got the company to be where it is. Like, what's my value? How am I going to add value? And I think that took, a whole year to really feel like, okay, like, yeah, I feel like I'm adding value. And like, this is the tangible reasons why.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the questions we were talking about is like, what was the biggest change, or what was, the biggest shift that's happened, at Concierge in the past 6 years? And I definitely would say that it's you coming on board, a year and a half ago. And is it 2 years ago now, or is it a year and a half ago? Like a year and a half, I think.
Ago, yeah.
and really having two people focused on not only on the company, but on our people.
I really feel like we have three.
Well, three, yeah.
We just insert Laura into everything.
Yeah, shout out to Laura.
Shout out to Laura.
Yeah.
Our
so really
therapist.
3 people, you know. And we've got great leaders.
She's not our therapist. I just said our therapist, but she knows inside joke.
Yeah. TPT. And we get tremendous leaders now. And it's fun, you know, one of the things, you know, so after you came on and we started really looking at, not that our culture was bad, but like how do we improve it? Like how do we take it from good to great? Not to quote Jim Collins or whatever, but how do we take our culture from good to great, right? Because, you know, as a company, we want to retain our talent. You know, it's hard to not only, you know, in this market today, it's hard to recruit, you know, new talent, especially really good talent. And it's equally as hard to retain, right? And we wanted to create an environment where people wanted to be.
Yeah.
You know, I think we've done a good job of that.
Well, and I think also, you know, what was really pivotal is, you know, having the right coach, right? Everybody needs a coach. And we were lucky to kind of find that, you know, in 8150 and have the right coach, the right person giving us, you know, some of the support systems around strategies. And, you know, I think one thing that you've done really well, and I think we all do really well in leadership here, is we want to learn from everything. Like we always are listening to podcasts, and not just from our industry, from different industries, like, right? Like that thought, like, you know, knowledge is power. Like I really do feel like, you know, the more you know, yes, maybe sometimes can, you know, make you feel scattered, but if you can take that knowledge and you can condense it and you can reflect and you can strategize around it with the right people, me, you, Laura, Mike, our clinic directors, you know, our, I think that, you know, that's powerful. That's where you get better.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, you know, yeah, 100%. I think coaching and, you know, we talked about, you know, you're a product of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
For sure.
And, you know, our coaches, you know, between other business owners that have successful clinics that they've built and companies that they've built that we spend time with, and, you know, our paid coaches and our advisors, you know, they have all the resources that we need, and they've
done it.
They've done it.
Yeah.
So it's like silly to think, you know, and
silly to think you have to do it, like just start from scratch.
But what's tough is too, like, you don't, like when you're first starting, you don't have the capital.
Yeah. Right.
You know, to invest in the coaching,
and
it's, I would argue that if you don't, you got to save up and just do it and just rip the Band-Aid off, because it's the best thing we've ever done. What I would say is that, like, your issues, like our issues, or I guess our problems or our growth opportunities now are way different than they were 6 years ago.
Of course.
You know, our growth opportunities now are a lot more advanced and a lot more nuanced. They really require, you know, a neutral coach to coach us through. You know, and somebody who's been there and done that, which Mike has done, and Holly, and, you know, they've been a really of great value add to our company.
I kind of feel like, you know, this kind of like wraps it up nicely, because we've talked about like all these things, all the failures, our journey, our successes, you know, all the things that kind of got us to where we are now. And we kind of ended it with talking about, like, you are the product of like the 5 people you surround yourself with. And, you know, to wrap it up, like, is that maybe like one of the number one things you would tell someone, you know, looking to start their own business? Like, surround yourself with the people who are already doing it.
Yeah, you know, here's my take on starting your own business. You know, I feel as though it was, looking back 6 years ago, I was incredibly naive. I had no clue what it actually took to build a successful company. And I understand now why 97% of businesses fail, and probably why some marriages fail too along the way. Because it's incredibly stressful. And, you know, I guess the question was, like, you know, what are some what was
the number
question?
one thing you would basically tell someone, you know, that's looking to start their own business?
Yeah, you know, what I would say is just, however hard you think it's going to be, it's 100 times harder. And however much you think you know about what you're going into and however prepared you are, you need to be more prepared. Yeah. And you need to interview at least 5 people who have done what you're trying to do in your field, and grill them and ask them what they would have done differently, and ask them, that's the hard questions. And you need to have a financial pro forma. You need to know that you're not going to be profitable, for your first year or two, and that there's a curve and there's a significant amount of time and money invested before you turn a profit in business.
And then growing and getting to the next level is a whole other set of.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 2 years or 3 years before I even took a paycheck? Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't take a paycheck out of the business for 3 years. Yeah. So, or if I did, it was very minimal. Like it was, 20, like whatever the minimum wage was, really.
$20,000.
And fortunately you were working at, a corporate job, so we were able to pay our bills and everything. But I took literally every cent that we made and just invested it in hiring a new PT, or hiring another front desk, or hiring, opening up another clinic, or buying another piece of equipment for the company.
And that's the thing. Like we really started from like nothing. Like we didn't come in with, like all this money and capital and investors, and because that's a whole other different. Yeah,
we're truly a family. It's truly 100% owned by us.
And started with no money. Well, I mean, like we saved like $30,000. I think,
the capital, and then we just worked along the way. And
truly built it.
We haven't taken any investor money, and I don't plan to. We've done it well, and we've kept it in the family, and we want to continue to do that. Yeah. And
I have one more question, actually.
Yeah.
I know I said like that wraps it up, but I think that this is important. When we're gone out of this world, what do you want, not maybe your legacy to be, but what do you want people to remember about Concierge?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question. I just want them to remember the feeling of what it was like to come in and be cared for.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like we do have the perfect mix of this, because you go immediately to the patient, which is great. And I go immediately to, I want everyone on our team to remember what it felt like. A good feeling, hopefully. Like, I hope our energy and our excitement and our like care is like contagious and like palpable. Palpable?
Palpable. That's a word.
I want everyone to remember that. Like, I want everyone to feel that. I want our team to feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, proud of you.
We're a good
Thank
team.
you. Yeah, I think so too.